I didn't hear about the baby from my daughter. I found out the same way everyone else did. A photo. Cropped tight, her hand on her stomach. A soft smile that looked practiced, like she'd taken a few versions before choosing that one. I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I was shocked. I'd suspected for a while. It was the quiet after that got me, the empty space where a phone call should have been, or at least a text. Something simple. Hey, Mom, we're expecting. Nothing came. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. I've always been good at that, talking myself down, finding reasonable explanations for other people's silence. Maybe she was waiting until it felt safer. Maybe she wanted to tell me in person. Maybe she was just busy. I waited. Every time my phone lit up, I checked. Weather alerts, group messages, spam. I started leaving the sound on, which I never do. Just in case, it stayed quiet. I didn't comment on the post. I didn't want to look needy. I clicked the heart like everyone else and kept scrolling, pretending that was enough. Days passed. Then a week. That's when it hit me. Slowly. In pieces. There was no follow-up coming. No private message. No "we're planning something soon." And definitely no mention of a baby shower. I thought maybe those came later. Maybe I was ahead of myself. I'd never been the kind of mother who hovered. I didn't want to start now. My name is Maribel Lawson, 62 years old. I've always believed if you give people space, they'll come to you when it matters. I raised my daughter that way. Independence. Respect. No pressure. I thought that counted for something. I replayed the photo again in my head, her smile, the way her body angled slightly away from the camera, like the moment wasn't meant for me specifically, just for whoever happened to be watching. I told myself I was overthinking it, that this wasn't about exclusion, that I would hear something soon, but one quiet evening, sitting alone with my phone face up on the table, I admitted the truth I'd been avoiding. If I wanted to know what was happening in my daughter's life, I was going to have to ask. So I picked up the phone and I started to type. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I sent anything. Then I typed the safest version of myself. Hey, sweetheart, I saw the photo. You look beautiful. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Thanks. Mom. I waited. Nothing else came. So I kept going, still careful. I just wanted to ask about the baby shower. I don't want to miss anything. This time the reply came faster. Oh, it's just a small gathering. Small. The word landed soft, like it was meant to. I wrote, small how? She said, nothing formal, just a few people. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a thing. That was new. I told myself she was tired, pregnant, busy. I could hear her voice even through the text, clipped but polite, like she was checking something off a list. I didn't realize. I typed, I just wanted to be sure. She answered, yeah, it's really not many people. I felt my shoulders drop. Relief came first. Real relief. Like I'd almost stepped out of line and managed to step back in time. Okay, I said. Just wanted to check. She sent a heart emoji, 1, clean, final. I set the phone down and laughed at myself. Quiet and short. Of course it was small. Of course she wasn't excluding me. I'd jumped ahead. That was all. I've always done that, assume the worst. Then apologized to the air. I told myself I should be proud of her for setting boundaries. I told myself this was what modern parenting looked like. I told myself I was lucky she even replied. Honestly, have you ever felt relieved just because someone gave you an answer? Even if it shrank you a little, I made some tea I didn't really want and carried my phone with me from room to room. Lighter now. I'd asked. She'd answered. That should have been enough. And for the moment, it was, She didn't bring up the shower again, not once. Instead, 2 days later, she texted, "Hey, just so you know, we haven't really gotten any gifts yet. No hello this time, just that." I read it twice, then a third time. Slower, like there might be another line hiding under it. I typed, "Oh, I didn't realize." She replied, "Yeah, we're kind of trying to get ahead of things. Ahead of me." I thought, I didn't type that. I asked, "What do you need?" That one took a minute. Then honestly, anything helps. Anything helps always sounds smaller than it is. I opened my banking app without thinking it through. I didn't call her. I didn't ask questions. I sent $2,000, labeled it for the baby. I added a heart, which felt stupid the second I did it. She responded almost right away. "Thank you, Mom. Seriously." That word, seriously, like I'd just proven something. I said, "Of course. I'm happy to help." Happy. Another word I reached for too fast. She sent a photo after that. Just a screenshot from some registry page. Cribs. Bottles. Things I didn't recognize anymore. I stared at it, trying to imagine my place in all of it. Where I fit. If I fit. Have you ever noticed how quickly people reply when money's involved? I put my phone down and waited for the feeling to hit. The one that usually comes after I spend too much or say yes too fast. Guilt. Regret. That little twist in the chest. It didn't come. What I felt instead was calm. A strange, settling calm. Like I'd done something right. Like I'd shown up, even if it wasn't in person, even if it wasn't how I'd imagined. I told myself this was what support looked like now, digital, efficient. No awkward small talk. I made dinner later and realized I was humming, not loudly, just enough to notice. That surprised me. For the first time since I saw that photo, I felt included again, and I let myself believe that meant something. She called this time. It wasn't a long call, just enough. "Mom, are you busy?" she asked. I wasn't. I never am. But I didn't say that. I simply said, "I can talk." She sighed a practiced, weary sound. "I'm just exhausted, Mom. My back is killing me. Everything feels so tight and overwhelming lately." "Pregnancy does that," I said, offering the only comfort I had. She laughed. A quick, dry sound. "Yeah. Listen, the nursery renovation is costing us double what we expected. We're so stressed. And the baby isn't even here yet. I don't want to bring a newborn into a construction zone. Could you cover the final $3,000 for the contractor? It would mean the world to us and the baby." She said it casually, as if she were merely quoting the weather. $3,000. I thought about the $2,000 I'd sent just 2 days ago. I remembered the strange relief I felt afterward, as if I were buying a seat at a table that had been pulled away from me. "If it helps you feel better," I said, "that's what matters." She didn't thank me right away. Instead, she said, "I knew you'd understand." That landed heavier than a thank you. It felt less like gratitude and more like an assigned role. I logged into my bank app while she stayed on the line, complaining about how much everyone expected of her. I nodded. Even though she couldn't see me, "It's taken care of," I said finally. Seriously. "Mom, I don't know what I'd do without you. It is so easy to confuse being needed with being loved. Make sure you rest." I said, "I will. Love you." The line went dead. I set the phone down, feeling useful, and for the moment, I let myself believe that was enough. 3 days later, I was standing in my kitchen when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. It was her. Not a message, a post. She was smiling. Wide and easy, the way she used to smile in photos before she learned how to pose. Her arm was hooked through her husband's mother's. His father stood close on the other side. Everyone leaned in like they belonged there. The caption was one word: family. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. I tapped the screen, then tapped again, like I'd missed something. Maybe a tag, maybe a comment explaining things. There wasn't one. Then the stories started rolling in. Not from her, from people I barely recognized. Friends of hers, acquaintances, someone from her husband's side I'd met once at a holiday. There were balloons, a banner with the baby's name on it, tables crowded with food, people laughing, shouting over each other, someone yelling, "Open this one next." So much for small. I turned the volume down, but the noise still felt loud. Too loud. I could hear it anyway. The kind of happy chaos that fills a room when everyone knows they're supposed to be there. I scrolled back to her post. Family. Not family and friends. Not so grateful. Just family. I thought about the money I'd sent, the nursery package, the careful texts, the way I'd stepped back without being asked. I opened our message thread, half expecting something new, an explanation, an apology, anything. There was nothing. My phone rang then. A friend of mine, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't trust my voice. Have you ever felt something drop so hard inside you that it didn't even hurt right away? I sat down at the table and put my phone face up in front of me. The screen went dark. My reflection stared back. Older than I felt a minute ago. That's when it finally settled. Not all at once. In pieces. She hadn't forgotten me. She hadn't kept it small. She hadn't been confused. She had decided, and I wasn't part of what she called family. I stayed there longer than I needed to, just breathing, letting the last excuse fall apart. When I picked up my phone again, it wasn't to scroll. It was to remember everything I'd ignored. And for the first time, I didn't rush to explain it away. After that post, I stopped scrolling and started remembering. Not the big moments, the small ones, the ones I'd brushed past because they didn't seem worth arguing over. I thought about how she only called when something needed fixing. Mom, can you look at this bill? Mom, can you help us bridge the month, Mom? Can you just take care of it? There was always a just in there, like it softened the ask. When I called her, it was different. I'm running into a meeting. I'll call you later. I've been swamped. Later didn't come. I replayed a conversation from last year, one I'd laughed off at the time. I'd told her I was tired. Not sick, just tired. She'd said, "You're always fine, Mom." Not cruel, not even dismissive. Just certain. "You're always fine, Mom." I'd nodded. Even though she couldn't see me, I always nod. I've nodded my way through a lot. I remembered how I'd handled things on my own so she wouldn't worry. How I skipped mentioning bad days. How I downplayed everything so she could stay light, untangled. There was a rhythm to it. I saw it now. Need came first. Affection followed. Quick and efficient. Silence after. I wasn't angry yet. That came later. What I felt then was embarrassment. Not for her, for me. I'd trained her. Slowly, accidentally. Every time I said, "It's okay." Every time I didn't ask for more. Every time I swallowed something because I didn't want to be difficult. I looked at the screen and realized I had spent years training her to offer me nothing. I had been a master at accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. I opened our message thread again. Scrolled back months. Years. The pattern was right there. Requests clustered together. My replies warm and fast. Her responses short. Functional. I stopped seeing myself as someone she forgot. I started seeing myself as someone she counted on not needing. That hurt in a quieter way. No spike, no drama. Just a dull understanding settling in. Being the strong one hadn't made me dependable. It had made me invisible. I didn't text first. I drove over. She opened the door with that surprised smile people use when they don't expect consequences. "Mom, you should have called." I wanted to talk. I said. She stepped aside. The house smelled like coffee and something sweet. Her husband's shoes were by the door. He wasn't there. We sat at the table. I didn't wait for her to offer anything. I saw the photos. I said. She didn't ask which ones. It wasn't a big deal. That's not what it looked like. She crossed her arms. You're reading too much into it. I took my phone out and set it between us. I didn't shove it at her. I didn't raise my voice. I just turned the screen so she could see. The post, the videos, the banner with the baby's name spelled out in glitter. She glanced down and then away. It was mostly his family. You said it was small. She shrugged. Small to me. I let that sit. I said, you took $2,000 from me for the baby. That was a gift. And $3,000 for the nursery. She frowned. Why are you bringing that up? Because you didn't tell me about the shower. I said, you told me it wasn't really happening. She sighed. Sharp this time. I didn't think it mattered that much. That was the sentence. Not loud, not angry. Just flat. I'm your mother, I said. She leaned back. And I'm pregnant. I can't manage everyone's feelings right now. I nodded. I actually nodded. Old habit. So you left me out, I said. Mom, you've always been so independent. I honestly thought you'd find the shower exhausting with all the noise and my mother-in-law's friends. I was actually trying to spare you the social obligation. I thought you'd prefer a quiet dinner later. Just us. Same thing, different tone. I slid my phone back into my purse. I didn't need it anymore. You could have told me, I said. You could have just said you didn't want me there. She looked at me then. Annoyed, tired, defensive. I didn't want a scene. I stood up. I didn't come here to make one. I said, I came to understand. She said nothing. That's when it clicked. Not painfully, clearly. This only worked when I stayed easy, quiet, useful. Have you ever realized the truth doesn't change anything once the other person's already decided who you are? I walked to the door. She didn't stop me. She didn't follow. I stepped outside knowing something had shifted. Not between us. In me. I didn't sleep much that night. Not from crying, from planning. By morning. It felt simple. Not easy, but simple. First, the car. It was in my name. It always had been. I'd agreed to the arrangement because she said it made things easier for her, but I realized now it only made things easier for her to forget who provided it. I didn't call the bank. I didn't want a clerk to handle this. Instead, I wrote a letter. I drove to her house while she was out and placed it on her kitchen counter along with the spare key I had kept for emergencies. I realize now that by solving every problem for you, I've prevented you from becoming the parent you need to be. I wrote, I will be selling the car to bolster my own retirement fund. You have a new family to rely on now, and it's time I rely on myself. I walked out without a scene. I wanted clarity, not a screaming match. An hour later, my phone exploded. Why are the car keys on the counter? She texted. And what is this letter? You're selling the car, Mom. I need that for the baby's appointments. I stared at the message longer than necessary, not to soften my heart, but to keep my hands steady. I typed back, I am taking back what I paid for. She called immediately. I let it ring until the kitchen was quiet again. Then came the next text. This feels really petty. Mom, petty. That word used to scare me. It used to make me double-check my tone and apologize for having a spine. I'm not punishing you, I typed back. I'm setting things right. There were 3 dots on the screen. Then nothing. An hour passed before her final message. You didn't have to make it so final. I looked at that line and felt something loosen. Not anger, not relief, just space. I realized then that people only call it final when you stop explaining yourself to them. I sent one last message. Short, factual, finished. I won't be helping financially anymore. Please don't ask. No emojis. no soft edges. I turned the phone face down and went about my day. I made lunch. I took a walk. I paid a bill I'd been putting off. I waited for the guilt to crash in, for that familiar ache in my chest that usually told me I'd gone too far. It never came. What came instead was a settled quiet. For the first time in my life, taking something away didn't feel cruel. It felt honest. I heard about it from someone else, not her. A woman from church caught me after service. She lowered her voice like she was sharing a secret she wasn't sure I deserved. I heard the mother-in-law has moved in permanently to run the household. My friend whispered, "Your daughter looks overwhelmed. She's realizing that the family she chose comes with a lot of strings attached. She's been asking around if anyone knows why you've gone so quiet." I nodded. That was all. She kept going anyway. People are talking. They say things are tight now. Really tight. Tight. That word again, later that week. Another message came through. A mutual acquaintance this time. Someone I barely knew. "She's having a hard time," he wrote. "I thought you should know." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered. Old instincts kicked in fast. Call her. Check in. Fix something. I didn't. Have you ever noticed how silence feels different when it's chosen? Days passed. Then weeks. No call from her. No apology. No request. That part surprised me more than the trouble. I realized something then. If she needed me, she knew how to find me. She always had. I wasn't blocking her. I wasn't making a statement. I just stayed where I was. People expected more from me. I could feel it in the way they paused after telling me things, waiting for a reaction. I didn't give them one. There was no satisfaction in it. No sense of balance restored, just distance. And distance, it turns out, can be a kind of peace. I went on with my days, ate dinner, paid my bills, slept through the night. Whatever was falling apart over there, I let it fall without my hands on it. That was the choice. And I kept making it. I didn't wake up one day transformed. There was no clean break. Just fewer reflexes. The first thing I stopped doing was waiting. I didn't keep my phone close anymore. I didn't check it before bed. If it buzzed, it buzzed. If it didn't, it didn't. I started filling my time in small, practical ways. Volunteering twice a week at a local food pantry, driving to nearby towns I'd never bothered with because I'd always been on call, giving rides, giving hours, not money, not favors that came with silence afterward. A woman there once asked why I came so often. "I like being useful," I said. She smiled. "We like that too." That felt different. I still thought about my daughter. Of course I did. I'm not made of stone, but I stopped building my days around the possibility of her reaching out. I stopped rehearsing what I'd say if she called. I stopped pretending I needed closure before I could move. Here's the thing I learned, and I'm saying it plain. Being generous doesn't mean being available to be erased. Being a mother doesn't mean accepting whatever's handed back to you. I used to think love meant staying open no matter what. Now I think love also means knowing when to close the door without slamming it. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe she'll call. Maybe she won't. I'm not pretending that doesn't matter. It just doesn't control me anymore. Tonight, I'm sitting at my kitchen table. The phone is face down. The room is quiet. Not the heavy kind, the settled kind. If any part of this sounds familiar, don't rush to fix it. Just notice it. Sit with it. And if you feel like sharing, leave a comment. Not to agree with me, just to say where you are in your own version of this. I'm still choosing myself. Some days better than others.